Everyone is going crazy. Stan Lee, the godfather of the modern superhero, has recently died. So everyone's saying, Stan Lee changed my life because of Spider-Man, because of Daredevil, Doctor Strange, the Avengers, Black Panther. Sure, these are great stories, but that is not the reason to admire Stan Lee. This is the reason. He was married for 70 years. His wife died in 2017. And even Stan Lee wasn't immortal. Shortly after his wife died, he died a year later. I could picture them in bed almost, talking each other to sleep. It's been a long 70 years, honey, maybe he would say. And nothing, not the Hulk, or Doctor Strange, or Daredevil, or the Avengers, could stop him from kissing her goodnight for the 25,000th night in a row as he turned out the lights. I love Stan Lee because he was a good guy, and he loved what he did, and he wanted to share his love of story with us. And that's the secret of his success. Stan Lee, born Stanley Lieber, wanted to write the great American novel when he was a kid. He took a job at a company called Timely Comics. Comics were not in fashion then. The superheroes of the 1930s were no longer popular. It was mostly just westerns and romances. And he took a job, he was willing to do anything. He would fill the ink in the empty inkwells of the people who were really telling the stories of Timely Comics. Like many Jewish people at that time, Stanley Lieber changed his name to Stan Lee. Almost reminds me of how Clark Kent was originally called Kal-El when he was on Krypton, and El, of course, is the Hebrew word for God, a fact clearly known by Siegel and Schuster, who wrote the Superman comics. Stan Lee chose himself. He found a passion, storytelling, and he did it for free until he built up his network and his knowledge and put in his 10,000 hours of storytelling. And then he was finally given a chance. Come up with a new superhero team, the boss of Timely Comics told him. At this point, superheroes were just beginning to come back. The Justice League of America, with competitor DC Comics, had just launched. But Timely Comics was still doing Western comics, romance comics, and so on, but those were sliding down. Stan Lee took up the challenge. He had seen the troubles of growing up in slums. He had grown up the nerdy kid, the kid who struggled, the kid who was bullied. He saw the travesty and tragedy of war when he served in World War II. He didn't want to write a superhero that was perfect, like Superman or the Flash. He wanted real people with real problems, with real fears, with real insecurities, with real secrets. But only people who would now use their secrets to save the world and battle their emotional dysfunctions. 30 years before mythologist Joseph Campbell popularized it, Stan Lee understood the arc of the hero, which is the secret of all of the stories he wrote and the secret of how to create the kind of success Stan Lee had. Joseph Campbell noticed that in every major story that survived thousands of years of time, culture, history, in every major religion, in every major pantheon of gods and heroes, the same story structure took place over and over and over. Stan Lee knew this even before Joseph Campbell, and using this formula that had worked for 5,000 years of storytelling, Stan Lee created the heroes that are today's modern-day pantheon of gods, as evidenced 50 years later by billions of dollars of movie franchises. Doesn't matter if you're young, you're old, you're ancient, you're a man, you're a woman, everybody's paying for tickets for these movies, all based on stories Stan Lee wrote using the arc of the hero in the 1960s. So let's examine the secret of Stan Lee's success in the context of how he wrote Spider-Man and how he used the arc of the hero, which is also sometimes called the hero's journey. First, there's the ordinary world. Our hero is not yet a hero. Maybe he's a nerdy high school kid. call to action, where our future hero is still ordinary, but there's the call, come be a hero. Refusal of the call. At first, our ordinary guy doesn't want to be a hero, or he has excuses. Meeting the mentor. Our hero, our future hero, meets the person who's going to spur him on to his adventure. Crossing the threshold. Now, finally, our ordinary guy is forced into the world of being a hero. Tests allies and enemies. Starts to meet the allies that will help him, the enemies that will attack him, and he has bigger and bigger tests along the way. Approach to the inmost cave, where in order to defeat the ultimate problems, he has to first conquer the fears, insecurities, and mistakes inside of himself. And then finally, the hero reaches his biggest test, his biggest challenge. He conquers it, and he returns to the world a changed person, ready to battle and to take on all future challenges. So that's the arc of the hero. Now let's look at it specifically in the context of Spider-Man. I'll present Spider-Man in the context of the arc of the hero. Peter Parker was a nerdy high school student that was bullied constantly. Just like me, maybe just like you, just like 100 million other kids. Again, he was an ordinary high school student, but he had flaws. Then, he was bitten by a radioactive spider. The radioactive spider gave him extraordinary powers. But first, Peter Parker didn't know how to use these powers. Instead of trying to save the world or help people, he wanted to make money. He fought fights in the circus, and that was his focus instead of being a hero. There was one point during this period, Spider-Man could have stopped a mugger, but again, he didn't want to use his powers to fight evil. But then something tragic happened. The mugger killed Spider-Man's mentor, his beloved Uncle Ben. And in his dying words, Uncle Ben whispered, "With great power comes great responsibilities." We all heard those words. Peter Parker heard those words. Spider-Man heard those words. And that was when he decided, okay, now I'm going to become a hero. He decided he's going to make his mentor, however brief, Uncle Ben, proud. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, enhanced his webbing, enhanced his suit, started fighting crime. And soon the criminals were not just simple muggers, but villains with vicious superpowers. Villains like Dr. Octopus, Mysterio, Electro, Shocker, the Vulture. Only Spider-Man could stop these villains. As he fought increasingly more difficult villains over the years, he built up his allies. Sometimes he worked with the Fantastic Four. For a while, he joined the Defenders. He even occasionally would work with the Avengers. And soon, the enemies went from villains destroying the city to villains potentially destroying the universe. Then, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, had his darkest moment. His arch-villain, the Green Goblin, threw to her death the love of Peter Parker's life, Gwen Stacy. And Peter was just devastated. What was going to happen to him now? He was either going to be destroyed by his despair, or he was going to rise up and become the hero that would eventually save the world time and time again. Eventually, he conquered the Green Goblin, just as the Green Goblin was trying to now kill Mary Jane Watson. So learning from his mistakes and learning from his 10,000 hours of mastery as he learned how to better and better use his superpowers, he started working with the other superheroes, and he became the fully authentic Spider-Man we know and love today. So this was the hero's journey, the arc of the hero of Spider-Man. That was the story Stan Lee told, and he told it over and over again. He told it with Daredevil, he told it with Doctor Strange, he told it with the Hulk. These were the arcs of the heroes. These were the arcs that we want to go on with these heroes. We want to be heroes, and that's what Stan Lee was appealing to. He wasn't writing a great story, he was writing about you and me and what we wanted in our lives. And that's the final secret to Stan Lee's success. The question I ask myself is my life the arc of the hero? Is your life the arc of the hero? We can all learn from these stories to become the heroes in our own lives. I hope you enjoyed that. I plan on doing a lot more of these style of podcasts and videos. If you like this and you want to see these as they are released on YouTube, because that's where I first launched this full video, please click on subscribe.